Yeah, we live.
All right, Shalom, Shalom.
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 Good brothers, a great Millstone Charlotte coming at you again through the Spirit and Power of Yahweh by Shemel Shai. And before we get started, we'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught us this truth and rule well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing his word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. To you, we say Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom. So this is going to be another installment to the 12 tribes breakdowns. This one we're going to be going into Zebulon or Zabalawan, and we're going to be breaking it down, showing you who these people are according to prophecy. And we're just going to go into it. So, Shah, can we start off with Genesis 30, verse 19? Start off with the origin of one of these patriarchs, or the patriarch Zebulon.
You said Genesis 40 and what?
Genesis 30 and verse 19.
30 and 19. I got you. This is Genesis 30 and 19. And Leah conceived again and bare Jacob the sixth son. And Leah said, Yahweh Shai or Yahweh have endued me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulon.
So Zebulon would be the sixth son after Issachar, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But Zebulon, that word goes into, or that name goes into habitation, right? As a matter of fact, let me pull it up.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe it goes into habitation. Also, let me see. Habitation, territory. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So it goes into habitation. So from there we can get Genesis 49.
I got that right here.
Oh, you got it?
God, it's Genesis, Barbara Ashiath, chapter 49, and we'll get verse 13.
We'll start at the top of the shop.
God, Genesis 49 and 1, it says, And Yaaiqab called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
Right. So as we've been doing in the past, these past lessons, we're going to go into the future prophecies that's going to be taking place to tell us who these people are and where these people will be located, and pretty much things that's going to be happening to these people. Primarily, as we're going to go into the tribe of Zebulon, what's going to befall this tribe in the last days. So we can go ahead and jump down to verse 13.
And real quick, you said the name was Zebulon. You said it was what?
Habitation?
The dwelling.
Oh, dwelling.
Dwelling,
Yeah, that was the word I was trying to look for, but I couldn't find it on there.
Yeah.
Genesis 49 and 13, it says, Zebulon shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be for an haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zidon.
Right, so it says Zebulon shall dwell at the haven of ships, and he shall be for an haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zidon. So when you go into this ain't talking about, whenever we got the land. Because Baba Kushak, can you pull up the map, priest of ancient Israel? Because when you look at the land that Zebulon was given or was allotted, he didn't have no coastal cities. He was pretty much dwelling in between his brethren.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, let me see.
Put it back up.
I was wondering if you could blow it up.
When you zoom in more, that's good.
Baba Kushai, mind zooming in?
Hold on, my thing tripping. Because the screen's not updating. Hold on.
Okay, fine. Yeah, but pretty much, when you look at the ancient map of Israel, Zebulon dwelt. He, like I said, he didn't have no coastal cities. So Zidon, when you look at the ancient map of Zidon, Zidon was a Phoenician, or what do you call a Hamite, a city, like a coastal city. There was a lot of ships, because the Phoenicians, they were like sea, like they were made up by a bunch of sailors and merchants.
Yep. See,
So
wait. Yep.
yeah, sea wayfaring people,
Hmm.
right? So that whole city of Zidon was, I don't know if you can see it right here. Yes, Zidon up to the very north, all the way to the top, is right there, right above Asher.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so you see Zebulon's down here in the purple. So he didn't have no coastal city. So this ain't talking about that time period. This is talking about a future time period, right? Because Baba Kushai, can we get Second Ezra 13 and verse 40?
Can I grab it?
Because this is some history which we already know, but it's good to bring back up because um, you have some people saying that all Israel is black people,
Hmm.
all Israel came from Africa, but no, we have the record shows that Israel was scattered, and 10 tribes were sent or came over here to the Americas.
This is Second Ezra chapter 13 and verse 40. It says, "Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land."
Mm. So they came into another land. That land is talking about here in America, right? Can you finish that out, Babu Shah?
Hmm. It says, "But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might there keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land."
Right. So what was that? Like I said, what was that land? That's what Christopher Columbus called the New World, right? Over here in America, it's called the New World. Back then, over there in Europe, Asia, and all that region over there, that was called the Known World. So we traveled all the way over here, in order to escape. Well, we pretty much, when we left the Syrian captivity, we came over here in order to keep the law, statutes, and commandments, right? But as we know, according to history, Jake fell off. But there was a time period where we did keep, the law, statutes, and commandments, and the culture was pretty much preserved for a time. But uh, again, just going into the point that those 10 tribes that traveled over here, and they set up their own land and everything. So whenever it goes into, when we go back to Genesis 49 and 13, it says, Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be for an haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zidon. That's going into where Zebulun is at currently, which is in that Guatemala all the way down to Panama, right? That whole region right there, Central America, right? And when you look at the Panama, you have a thing called the Panama Canal, where a lot of ships daily be passing through. I mean, I don't know about now. Didn't they shut down the Panama Canal or something like that? I don't know, brothers know.
At one point, I think they did, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, con. But pretty much that whole region, as soon as they created that Panama Canal, which was really really prophecy, made that come to pass because in order for this to be, for this prophecy to come to pass, right? Genesis 49:13, because that whole region was pretty much uh, there was a lot of ship traffic. A lot of traffic was going through there because that was the fastest way to get from California over to Europe. Instead of going all the way around the world, so they created that Panama Canal. You
Hmm.
know, but also when you go into Baba Kushak, can you get First Kings 10 and verse 21?
This is First Kings. You said First Kings 10.
Yeah, First Kings 10 and 21.
This is First Kings chapter 10, and we'll get verse 21, and it says, "And all King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold, none were of silver, it was nothing accounted of in the days of Solomon. For the king
Mhm.
had a keep going.
Yeah, keep going. Me too.
For the king had a sea, a navy of Tarshish with the navy of Hiram. Once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory and apes and peacocks.
Right. So whenever we go back to Second Ezra 13, around the 40 something verse, 42nd, 43rd verse, it talks about how it took us a year and a half to reach this place, right? So showing you that we had knowledge of this land even during the time of King Solomon, because King Solomon sent a ship, and what did he say? It took him a year and a half to get over here, right? Or it took him 3 years, to get there and back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's talking about here in America. So King Solomon already knew of this landmass over here. So he was sending ships and they brought him all kinds of gold, all kinds of animals, trees, all kinds of things that they found over here, right? But at the same time, they would leave these what they would call landmarks. They were Olmec heads, right? So they would establish these heads as like across the seashore, or even amongst the lands, to let them know that they've been in these areas. You know, now what's this?
This was just showing you the trade route that y'all was talking about what King Solomon took.
Okay, yeah. So they went through the Red Sea.
Zoom in a little bit, Salaki. How do I do that?
So pretty much they went down from the Red Sea all the way down to the Indian Ocean, and then they circled under Africa, and they came over here,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty much the same route that we took whenever we came out of the Syrian captivity.
I believe
Right.
I believe it was the it said the narrow passages of the Euphrates for
Right.
when we came over here.
Okay, yeah. But let me see. There was a point I wanted to make with this. Right. So whenever again going back to Genesis 49:13, Zebulon shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be for an haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zidon. So Zidon is referring to that region where Ham landed over here in America, right? Which is that region of Guatemala, down to Panama, which is that region. That whole region, you'll find a bunch of Olmec heads scattered throughout the whole coast.
Damn.
Yeah.
You wanted this one or the old one?
We'll get that one. That was good.
Okay, kind.
So I'll read it. It says, while not their sole purpose, because I typed in Olmec heads were used as landmarkers, and it says, while not their sole purpose, some scholars suggest Olmec heads may have served as territorial markers, which is exactly what they were for, right? Because Ham didn't live over here. When you read in Second Ezra 13, it says, "Where never no man dwelt." So
Right.
they didn't come over here and set up, a civilization. They came over here and just set up a small post just to collect the items and then ship it back over to Solomon.
Mm-hmm.
But it says, asserting Olmec authority, though they are more widely believed to be memorial or portraits of powerful. No, they're going off right there, right? But that was pretty much the point. They were pretty much set up as territorial markers. But let me see. We can go to. Hold on, there was an article that I had.
I had a quick scripture if I can.
Go ahead.
Kind of, you get it.
Unless you want me to hold it, Deuteronomy 33.
Actually, hold that, Bubba Shah.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted
What was it?
the wiki?
Actually, we can just go on Deuteronomy 33. Yeah, that was pretty much the point. We already got that.
This is Dabariam, Deuteronomy chapter 33, and we'll get verse 18, and it says, and of Zabalawan he said, rejoice Zabalawan, Zebulon, in thy going out, and Issachar in thy tents.
Right, because at one point, Issachar and Zebulon, were dwelling together. At one point they were called both together were called the Mayans, but then I believe Issachar separated and called themselves the Toltecs. And I don't know, the history, is very muddled when it comes to, that thing, because Esau, he destroyed a lot of the artifacts, a lot of the records. So he pretty much muddled the waters when it comes to knowing about the history. But what we do know is that at one point they were dwelling together, but then Issachar or Zebulon went away, one of the two, and you had Issachar set up the Toltecs, and then eventually become the Aztecs,
That's
and then you had the Mayans, which were Zebulon, and they dwelt in that same region. It's Guatemala, down to Panama. You
if
had
I
a
can
point.
add, hold up.
No, go ahead, bro.
Okay. No, if I could add too, pretty much, I'm gonna read it again. Deuteronomy 33 and verse 18. It says, "And of Zebulon, he said, Rejoice, Zebulon, in thy going out, and Issachar in thy tents," in which pretty much, they pretty much dwelt, in the same areas. We got a good glimpse of that, or an illustration of that in the movie Apocalypto. They
Yeah.
even had it to where they was over there by the waters. Because when you ultimately go into the prophecy of Zebulon, it goes into how he will be pretty much by the waters. The
Mm,
Panama Canal, it was near the waters. So when you go into the name for the Mayans, that's broken Hebrew for pretty much a spring of water. Because they pretty much dwelt by the waters.
right, right. Um, Probably Bashar, can we get actually let's finish that out. Verse 19.
God,
Deuteronomy 33:19.
Deuteronomy 33 and verse 19, it says, "They shall call the people unto the mountain. There they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness, for they shall suck of the abundance of the seas and of the treasures hid in the sand."
Right. So when it says they shall call the people unto the mountain, that's going into the pyramids that they built, during that time. Baba Bashar, you mind pulling up that article of or at least that AI overview of Chichen Itza?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you go into this is a city. Chichen Itza was a city, but it's the center. It was like the center of the whole empire, because you had a temple there called the Kukulkan Temple, which was a temple. When you go into it, it's really going into Yahusha, Kukulkan, Quetzalcoatl. That's really referring to Yahusha. So they knew about Yahusha, but they called him by this name. But it says the temple of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza, also known as El Castillo, was built by the Maya between the 8th and 12th centuries AD to honor the feathered serpent deity Kukulkan, a testament to Mayan astronomy and mathematics. The pyramid is aligned with celestial elements like the equinoxes. So just showing you how Jake had advanced mathematics and advanced infrastructure.
Mhm.
But it says its structure includes 91 steps on each of the four sides, which, when combined with the top platform, equal 365, the number of days in the solar year. So there was a point, but it's not. It doesn't show it on that. On yours, I have it right here though.
I got a precept just to kind of go into the fact that you said this was a temple made to Yahweh Shai, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the Lord spoke to the northern kingdom over on this side. All right.
Mm-hmm.
This is St. John 7 and 35 in the NLT. It says, where the Jewish leaders ask, where is he going? Is he thinking of leaving the country and going to the Jews in other lands? Maybe he will even teach the Greeks. And this is just showing, because it's no coincidence that the northern kingdom have prophecies about Yahweh Shai as well, just as
Mm-hmm.
the southern kingdom is, because those are the Lord's people too.
Mhm.
Let's say Issachar, like you said, they call them, is it
Kukulkan. Oh,
Kukulkan?
Quetzalcoatl Salaki.
Yeah, yeah. I'm about to say that. Yeah, Quetzalcoatl and then Kukulkan,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just see that they had the prophecy how he was gonna come from the east and sail on a big ship, and then like I said, we got the temples.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just further proof that the Northern Kingdom, they're Israelites too for you black owned
Mm-hmm.
people.
Yeah, and if you also watch our the video that we made on Issachar, we brought out certain points of I don't know if y'all brothers remember, of that image of what's supposed to be Yahushua, stabbing himself or pulling out like a nail out of his feet.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so they had knowledge of this. They had Yahushua did come over here on this side and did sup with them. He did talk with them. He taught them things. And there's records of that. They had the Mayans and the Aztecs have stories of this God.
God.
But I got this right here. Brother Shah, can you scroll down? I don't know if yours has it. Yeah, it doesn't have it. But right here on mine, you see it talks about the purposes of this temple.
Okay.
Yeah, and it says the purpose. It says is honored Kukulkan. It says the Yucatec Maya feather serpent deity and served as a place for religious ceremonies and observation. It says going back up. It says this pyramid. Okay, is going into this 365 steps, but also says it creates an awe-inspiring spectacle. It served as a central religious, political, and economic hub, showcasing a blend of Maya and Toltec influences before the city's eventual abandonment. So just showing you how the Mayas and the Toltecs were heavily involved with each other. Issachar and Zebulon were just like they were together. There was no division among them. They were all working together, developing this society. But like I said, that region, especially that pyramid, that was like a central hub. That was where they gathered all together to, for religious ceremonies or whatever, man. They all gathered together in that region to put up the sacrifices or whatever it was. But let me see, Babu Shah. Trying to find that one of the article. Yeah, we can go ahead and get that Wikipedia one on the Spanish conquest.
Got you.
Because like I said, you have some Jakes that be out here saying that all the tribes are so-called black, but not really touching into the history and prophecy of how these tribes will be living and also the things that they will suffer. But that's just showing you, how we need the true prophets out here to bring out the truth. Because if we were to go along with that, that means that we would like automatically just bore out a huge population of Israelites on this side, man, that went through the same things that so-called black people went through, man.
Right.
I got a quick scripture. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15.
Hey,
Yeah, this.
I was looking for it.
Yeah.
I know where you're going though, but go ahead.
Deuteronomy 28 and 15, it says, "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee." And pretty much, the scriptures say in this same chapter, they essentially serve as a sign, so we can see all the curses essentially upon all the tribes. All right, because essentially we went off and the curses was placed upon us. Now I want to skip down. If a brother didn't have a point, I'm gonna get verse 64. Deuteronomy 28 and 64 says, "And the Lord shall scatter thee," and that's essentially where the term for diaspora comes from, which a lot of times in secular history, when they say diaspora, they essentially talking about Southern Kingdom, but all of us was scattered. So it says, "And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people," because Jake comes looking like the heathen, going into the Israelite corners, It says, "Scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone," which that chiefly goes into Christianity, and Islam, because those are two of two things that have strongholds on Jake's mind, But going back into the point, Jake, essentially we understand that we fit the prophecies in the scriptures, pursuant to Romans 8:16, because ultimately Jake, after we was in the land, essentially we understood that we was the people, which we continued to essentially fall away, you see, but Jake was still somewhat holding, customs as
Right.
because we are the people.
Right. Just like we brought out the pyramids, right? There was a point in time where Zebulon, Issachar, they were keeping the high holy days. They were, you know, just doing things, in its proper order, according to the scriptures. But over the process of time, Jake, as always, will backslide and start taking on, previous customs, or, like you said, customs of the different heathen. So that would end up just, setting them, it'll be like a small deviation at first, but that will lead them to, like, later down in the future, to a huge, a big gulf between the right way and the path that they're in.
Right.
But I got this real quick to back up your point. This is Hosea 7:8. It says, Ephraim, he hath mixed himself among the people. Ephraim is a cake not turned. So that's really going into, as well, in modern time now is all the tribes. You have Judites, you have Benjaminites, Levites, that, some of them look so-called white, some of them look so-called Hispanic, some of them look, like all the nations, man. You know, but in this point, pretty much Ephraim representing the northern kingdom. Jake comes in all colors, shapes, and sizes, man. You know, you have some Ephraimites that are dark, you have some Ephraimites that are light. You have some Issacharites that are dark, some Issacharites that are light. And that's throughout all the whole tribes, man. You have all the colors of the spectrum in the tribes, man. But we can go. I want to read back Deuteronomy 33:19 real quick, because there's a point I forgot to make on the latter part. It says, "They shall call the people unto the mountain; there they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness. For they shall suck of the abundance of the seas and of treasures hidden in the sand." And that's going into them treasures hidden in the sand is going into, like, the oil, that's in the Gulf of Mexico, around that region. You know, there's a lot of drilling going on there. I believe, what is it, Exxon? They're drilling over there. But that's all, the riches in the sand. Let me see. We can go to that. Okay, yeah, you got it up in there.
Carl, before we read that, I wanted to add something to that Deuteronomy 28. The one of the curses that befell our people to let us know that we have the same history as the northern kingdom, as we all have the same enemy. The same thing of how we got conquered. They got conquered, the same way.
Mm-hmm.
This is Deuteronomy 28:49. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far and from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. Because like
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned, in that movie Apocalypto, like you said, that was
Mm-hmm.
Zebulon and Issachar, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they were, that was fighting, and then what happened at the end? They saw that damn ship come, right, which
Mm-hmm.
carried Edomites, man, them conquistadors. So they, got overtook by the same man, the same, devils. All right, because we didn't speak their language. They were speaking, Spanish.
Mm-hmm. God, and one point I wanted to make too. You talked about the infighting. You know, there was no way for Esau to come in and, saying, take us down, if there was no infighting among us. When you go into the Aztec and the Mayan civilization, I mean, they were so powerful and so great. Like, there was no way that this man could have done this. But it was the will of Yahweh Shem Yahushua to put these curses on us. The Deuteronomy 28, verses 15 on down. Those curses are really embodied within our people around this time period. The time period, the colonization of America and all this, and the enslavement of our people. We see all those curses embodied our people. So,
Right.
but my point being is that our civilization was so powerful that it required us to be like in some kind of infight. You had the Aztecs versus the Mayans, but you even had that, amongst over there in the known world, over there in Europe. You had the Moors, going up against the Christians, which were also, Jake. So you had
They,
infighting,
Yep.
right? And then you had plagues, the Black Plague. But then what happened over here? You had the smallpox epidemic and all these different viruses and plagues that befell our people that killed off a large population. You know, so this was all the will of Yahweh Shem Yahushua to take us down. If it wasn't for all that, Esau would not be in power, man.
Right. Because at the end of the day, they were going off. And the Lord
Right.
doing all those different things that you said, those were, judgments which Esau
Hmm.
took advantage of. Because like one of the reasons like now we're hearing these damn these Christians talking shit, talking about, we deserve to get conquered because we were just a bunch of savages that were just doing human sacrifice and all that shit. But number one, they do it too. And two,
Hmm.
like I said, our people, they knew that our customs required sacrifice. They just went all the way left with that shit, you know.
Right.
Looking up on Google, just trying to look for anything we can add to the lesson. And I was asking like, because you said the Zebulon, that was the Mayans, right?
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was trying to figure out any customs that they did that was similar to the Bible. And so in the AI overview, I'll put it on the screen real quick.
Hmm.
I mean, it goes off, but you can still, see. It says, yes, there are several Mayan customs similar to those found in the Bible, such as a creation story and the Popol Vuh that mirrors the Bible's creation narrative and the use of sacrifice and other religious rituals. Both traditions also feature heroic figures and a belief in an afterlife. The Mayan creation story, as described as the Popol Vuh, described in the Popol Vuh, is comparable to the biblical account of the creation of the world and humanity, through though details differ. So, in a way, they had a creation story. So they weren't savages. They believed in a higher power, formed the world. Because Esau tell you that they were just a bunch of animals that would just kill each other.
Hmm.
So it says,
Nah.
oh, go ahead,
Also,
Slocky.
like,
No,
it's
go
like
ahead.
I just wanted to add to your point because you mentioned, how Esau would think of us as being savages. Pretty much when you go into that word savage, it pretty much like goes into like having no order, just being wild like a beast. You
Exactly.
know, and when you go into the history though, like something that they don't teach you is how Zebulon and Issachar, they had advanced mathematics, they
Yep.
had advanced infrastructure, an
Sewage
advanced
system.
society, uh, schools, they had politics, astronomy, irrigation system, agricultural system. I mean, you have so many things that even to this day, scientists and archaeologists, they stand at awe because they're like, yo, we can't even recreate this today. Like, there's no
Right.
way we can build a pyramid on top of a lake. Like some of
Right.
these structures, are aligned with the stars and everything to where they're like, yo, how did they get to this?
Right,
And
because
that's
Jake naturally is an architect.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's why Esau, tries to use that narrative of like our people was just animals, because it dehumanizes you to the point to where there's no way in hell that we could be these great people in history. So it just shows you that this is why this devil, you gotta break them lives down, man.
Mhm. No, it makes sense why this man had to destroy, the artifacts and all the history and the records because I mean he did the same thing over there in Europe. He was
Exactly.
trying to take down all the images, whitewash everything, change everything up, and I mean he couldn't do all of it. Even the same thing on this side, he couldn't get rid of all of it. That's why you have traces of some of these things, like the pyramids. He couldn't do away with the pyramids, so he has to kind of explain it away somehow, but we understand, that Jake wasn't no savage. Jake was, ruling with true wisdom at that time. You
Yeah.
know, Jake had like I said, Jake had schools, Jake had knowledge, Jake knew a lot of shit, man. Jake
Yep.
wasn't no savage. The savage was the one that came over here, which was Esau.
Exactly.
coming over here with his sword, with his guns and all this shit. Coming for blood. But we can read into this. This is pretty much the perfect segue. We're gonna lead into what we're talking about.
You want to start from the top?
Yeah, Bubba Shaw.
All right, so this is the Spanish conquest of the Maya. It said the Spanish conquest of the Maya was a protracted conflict during the Spanish colonization of the Americas, in which the Spanish conquistadors and their allies gradually incorporated the territory of the late post-classic Maya states and polities into the
Yeah.
colonial viceroyalty of New Spain. It says the Maya occupied the Maya region, an area that is now part of the modern countries of Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. The conquest began in the early 16th century and is generally considered to have ended in 1697.
Mhm.
Before,
So,
go
so
ahead.
right here, you'll see an image right there on the right. Um, this guy's name was Conquistador Pedro de Alvarado. So pretty much this guy, because you always hear of, Christopher Columbus, you always hear of what's his name, Hernan Cortez. I forgot the dude that took down the Incas. I think his name was Francisco something. The guy's name, but this guy was one of the guys responsible for the downfall of the Mayans, right? Pedro de Alvarado. But
Interesting.
you can see it reading.
Yep. It says before the conquest, Maya territory contained a number of competing kingdoms. Many conquistadors viewed the Maya as infidels who needed to be forcibly converted and pacified despite the achievement of their civilization.
Right. So exactly what we were just talking about.
Yep.
They felt like because they were for whatever reason, they deemed them as being, savages and felt like they need to be converted to their Christianity. But this is all, the same thing that just in order for them to have power over Jake, you know,
Yeah.
they use strategies like divide and conquer around this time, and also they will send letters over to the royalty over there in Europe, pretty much showing what they found, and pretty much the same thing that Christopher Columbus did, and having a reason to come in and just steal and take away. You know, the scripture talk about how the thief cometh not but to steal, kill, and destroy, and that's exactly what he did.
That's right.
I got scripture if I can.
Come on, you got it up.
So Psalms Dahoyim chapter 144 and verse 11. It says, "Rid me and deliver me from the hand of strange children, whose mouth speaketh vanity, and their right hand is a right hand of falsehood." And this is talking about Esau eating the so-called white man, because during this time period, a lot of things went on, which, if I'm not mistaken, this is around about the time period of like the Renaissance, where he was able to, essentially hide behind certain deceptions and certain strongholds that essentially he used to come up in power, you know.
Mhm. God, yeah, and he would even use like with against the Aztecs. He even used the whole thing the whole thing that he was pretty much Quetzalcoatl or Kukulkan coming back, you know, and that fooled a lot of jigs at that time because of the armor that they came with ships, and all this shit. So they kind of confused a lot of jigs at that time. So he was able to kind of sneak in there and pretty much, as the serpent does, just come and sneak in and cause havoc.
That's right.
Sensationalism.
Right. But we continue reading on this a little bit more.
The first contact between the Maya and European explorers came in 1502 during the fourth voyage of Christopher Columbus, when his brother Bartholomew encountered a canoe. Several Spanish expeditions followed in 1517 and 1519, making landfall on various parts of the Yucatan coast. The Spanish conquest of the Maya was a prolonged affair. The Mayan kingdoms resisted integration into the Spanish Empire with such tenacity that their defeat took almost 2 centuries.
Right.
Whew,
So, hey,
that's weird. If I could add, because that
uh,
shows you the fighting, Jake, man. Without, like
mhm.
I said, bro, it had to be the Heavenly Father, helping Esau to take our people down, bro. Because he tried to make it seem like it was just this swift, I just came in and dominated. Nah, bro. It was the Heavenly Father that had to intervene to help this nigga.
Right. Hey, and it's heavy you said that because even with Gad, whenever you go into like school, like the history they teach you at school, right? They give you like a very brief takedown of the Native Americans. But when you go into it, man, it was an extensive like war, man. It was like battles and battles and battles, like many battles. I don't even know how many battles there were that Esau had against Gad, just Gad alone.
Man.
They're just showing you the like I said, the fight and the resilience of Jake, man. But going into this, it shows you how, pretty much how Jake was pretty much they had their own trade. They knew of each other as well. They knew of the other tribes being over here and over there. You know what I'm saying? They had trade systems, trade routes. It was it was an extensive thing. You know what I'm saying? That Esau tries to hide and tries to not really show too much.
Right.
They really try to paint that narrative that Jake was a savage wearing a goddamn loincloth with a goddamn spear in his hand. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't really try to give Jake the credit that he's due. Because Jake had clothing. Jake wasn't out here butt ass naked, man. Jake had clothing at the time.
Right.
Whether it was a sash, whether it was a tunic or something, Jake was wearing clothing, man. I seen an image on this one article that showed Jake wearing an actual like a robe type of thing. Like the high priests and stuff in the Aztec and the Mayan empires, they had clothing. They weren't, wearing just a damn tunic, man. I mean, a loincloth. They had sophisticated stuff, man.
Yeah. How the hell are we gonna survive winter in the cold months in a fucking loincloth with no clothes and shit, bro? Like, come on, man.
Right, right. They're gonna say, well, they're in a tropical area, so they didn't need all that.
Yeah, you still got winter months though. That's that with Job 13:4, the forger of lies, the physician
Mm-hmm.
of no value. This nigga is a fucking liar, man.
Mm-hmm. Come on, but we can finish it out. Or we'll finish out to that paragraph, and I'll be on this.
All right. It says Itzamaya and other lowland groups in the Petén Basin were first contacted by Hernan Cortez. That name came back up
Mm-hmm.
in 1525, but remained independent and hostile to the encroaching Spanish until 1697, when a concerted Spanish assault led by Martin de Uzia Arizmendi
Mm-hmm.
finally defeated the last independent Maya kingdom. The conquest of the Maya was hindered by the politically fragmented state. Spanish and native tactics and technology differed greatly.
Right. So, like it's like it says, the Spanish and native tactics and technology differ greatly because Esau had the technological, the weapon, how should I say, the upper hand in that. He had the upper hand in weaponry. He had the upper hand in certain tactics. Because what he would do when you go into the history of this man, like I said, go to he will figure out, he will survey the landscape, and then he'll be like, okay, well, this tribe is warned against that tribe. And then what he'll do is he will try to infiltrate either one of those tribes and try to pin them against each other and try to make them go to war. It's just a whole divide and conquer thing.
Right.
You know,
Like
you got it out.
kind of it's it really show you the spirit of Esau because like and the militaristic the military pretty much the military tactics that they teach in America Babylon the Great is pretty much the divide and conquer. They got different sectors to where like what is it called psychological operations to where they'll put somebody in the general population. They learn how people talk, what they do, how they view this, how they view that. Then they learn how they think. So then they'll start to spread their madness and then turn one group against the other. It's the same tactics.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Right.
if you he understands how people think in those different groups, then he can start to essentially spread his poison, and what he does best is essentially that media, start to use those words.
Right, right, and that's exactly what he did against the Aztecs. He would get certain Mayan tribes that were pretty much angry at what the Aztecs were doing, and that's how pretty much the Aztecs were taken down. You know, they went to war. They took down the king. What's his name? Montezuma, and
Yep.
then they had a whole war. Even the Aztecs had to go to war with the Mayans. It was a huge mess. And this was all created by the devil himself. But I think that's it on that.
Okay.
Let me see. But as a matter of fact, let me read a little bit down more. It says the Spanish engaged in a strategy of concentrating native populations in newly founded colonial towns. They viewed the taking of prisoners as a hindrance to outright victory. And so they didn't take no prisoners. Esau didn't take no prisoners, man. He just straight up slaved people, man. So it says, whereas the Maya prioritized the capture of live prisoners and of booty. Among the Maya, ambush was a favorite tactic. In response to the use of Spanish cavalry, the highland Maya took to digging pits and lining them with wooden stakes. Yeah, this shit
Uh,
reminds me of
Trap.
like the Vietnam War.
Yeah. Shit, that
But it
happened in
said,
Apocalypto too, didn't it?
they what?
So that happened in Apocalypto too, didn't it?
Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It says native resistance to the new nucleated settlements took the form of the flight into inaccessible regions such as the forest or joining neighborhood Maya groups that had not yet submitted to European conquerors. Spanish weaponry included crossbows, firearms included muskets, I don't know how to pronounce that, arquebuses, and cannon, and war horses. Maya warriors fought with flint-tipped spears, bows and arrows, stones, and wooden swords. So showing you the difference of weaponry, right?
Right.
Showing you how this man was given the blessing of the sword, man.
Because he pretty much, just you reading off that, like they had, small arms. Esau had the advantage of that, the technological advancements and weaponry. Going into those cannons. That's artillery. You can essentially reach a little bit further of a distance. Because
Mhm.
being that the Mayas and pretty much Jake in general, it was used to like ambushing. Esau
Mhm.
is more so. He got the drones nowadays. He got the artillery. You got the mortar rounds. Doing it from far off. So these technological advancements, Esau was able to put himself into an advantageous position.
Right. And even amongst our people, our people didn't really war like that. That whole war with Aztecs and the Mayans, that was relatively new around that time. You
Mhm.
know, and well, when you go into the history, you'll see that it was relatively new. Because the Mayans, they were or the Aztecs, they were going through some drought, so they had to take drastic measures, which they went off by sacrificing their own brothers to sacrifice unto their gods, whatever. But uh, the point being is that whole war amongst Israel, that was all relatively new. So they didn't really have advancements in technology like Esau did, as far as weapons and stuff like that. Esau, that's his nature, to be warlike, to be bloodthirsty. You know, so that's exactly what he had. He had the like I said, the muskets, he had the arquebuses, the cannons, the firearms, the crossbows, the war horses. So they were able to take down, or really mow down Jake, pretty quickly. And then you had, like I said, the plagues, you had the smallpox and all that. So that helped Esau, gain momentum. But let me finish this out. It says Maya warriors fought with flint tipped spears, bows and arrows, stones, and wooden swords with inset obsidian blades, and wore padded cotton armor to protect themselves. The Maya lacked key element or lacked key elements of old world technology, such as a functional wheel, horses, iron, steel, and gunpowder. They were also extremely susceptible to old world diseases against which they had no resistance. So, exactly, that's pretty much the point. So, pretty much all the curses fell upon these people, man, just showing you that uh, these are the people of the Bible, man. These are the people spoken about in the scriptures, you know. This is the tribe of Zebulon from Guatemala, the Guatemalans, all the way down to the Panamanians. These are uh, uh, one of the tribes of the nation of Israel, right, which is Zebulon. Okay. That's pretty much it, man. I don't know if your brothers have anything else. Like I said, I have another article, but it's kind of out of season.
I don't have
Whatever,
anything.
whatever you have, bro.
I mean, we can get it if you want. If the brothers want.
If you want to keep edifying, brother, go for it.
We just pull it up. It's that one other article I sent you. Histories, vocal.media history.
Let me see.
I believe I sent it to you.
Dealing with the yeah, I got you right here.
Mm-hmm. Just touching back into what we were saying. So it says the Maya civilization revealed to be more advanced than previously thought. So I'm gonna read a little bit into this. It says the Maya civilization revealed to be more advanced than previously thought. Consider the significant events of the first millennium CE, a span of 1,000 years in human history that witnessed the rise and fall of the Roman Empire and the transition to the intense Middle Ages. It was also the apex period of the Mayan civilization in Mesoamerica. However, recent cutting-edge technology advancements have reshaped our understanding of history. So even more stuff is coming out, you know, of our people and how advanced our people were over here on this side. But it says archaeologists have unearthed compelling evidence suggesting that the Maya civilization may have had its origins much earlier than traditionally believed. From the onset, the civilization appears to have been far more intricate than previously assumed. To delve deeper into this revelation, one must embark on a journey into the dense rainforest of Guatemala. It says the remarkable Mayan roadways. These rainforests, though formidable and challenging for archaeologists to navigate, conceal remarkable discoveries contrary to expectations. Expansive white painted roads, uh, measured 130 feet in width, reminiscent of structures found in places like Portugal, England, or the United States, have been uncovered. These roads, approximately half the size of an American football field, form a 110-mile network believed to predate the first documented Mayan ruins. So pretty much we had massive roadways that connected different cities together, right? It says Mayan superhighways and settlements. Termed the world's first superhighway, these roadways sometimes traverse swampy terrain and elevated at points, are thought to have connected around 964 settlements in a vast interconnected web. You got to imagine the size of this city, man, of this empire, man. This thing was huge. 964 settlements were connected in this web of roads. But it says this challenges the conventional notion that the Mayan pre-classic period comprised small tribal settlements. The sheer manpower and engineering prowess required for such construction are staggering. Um, Scholars propose that these causeways were built using a similar methodology employed in constructing Mayan pyramids, employing a mixture of mud, quarry stone, and multiple layers of limestone. That's pretty much it, though. You know, it just further adds to the point, you know, of how advanced our civilization was, man. You know, Esau. You know, even in some of the books like Hernan Cortez, the ones that Hernan Cortez wrote. You know, he wrote how how amazing the city of the Aztecs were. You know, I forgot the name of the city. I believe it was Chichen Itza, or I forgot what city it was. But pretty much he described how and at all they stood, you know, before that city, because it was like so amazing. It was surrounded by water. You had, you know, channels of water. You know, you had, you know, different I forgot what they're called. Like these like plots of land that they would create, and they would float on top of the water. You know, and they would grow crops in there.
Like
You
an
know, so
isle,
it was the what?
kind of like an isle or a peninsula, or like I think it's called a isthmus or something like that.
Kind of like, yeah, like they would make like certain like like a raft, almost like a raft of
Mm-hmm.
land, and they'll
Right.
grow crops on there.
Mm-hmm.
And but you know, like I said, even in that devil's journal, you know, he wrote how amazing their society was. So you know, the history is there, man. You know, all you gotta do is go out and dig for it, man.
Wow.
But that's pretty much it, Doc. I don't know if brothers have anything else. That's pretty
I
much
got
it.
I
I
did.
got a quick one.
Go on.
So Romans chapter 8 and verse 16, and it says, "The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High." All right, and which the Spirit goes back to the Word, you know, which each prophecy essentially was prophesied about, you know, the 12 tribes, or the 12 tribes have prophecy essentially going into what will essentially occur to them, you know, Genesis, the 49th chapter, Deuteronomy 33, and, you know, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, West Indians, Haitians, Israelite foreigners essentially fit those prophecies. You know, we got the biblical history, you see, but then we also have, you know, the secular, you know, which adds to what's in the scriptures, you know, because
Mhm.
essentially we essentially illustrate in detail who the scriptures is talking about.
Right.
Con.
Spirit connect the dots.
Hmm.
Mhm. That's what it is. This is a spiritual connect the dots, man. And through all this research and all this connecting the dots, I mean, it just further solidifies the point that we are the children of the Most High, man. Like there's really no doubt about it. You know, even to the point where even some Edomites are even now saying that we are the children of the Most High. So, you know, the ancient scholars even say it too. You know, they've referenced, you know, how the similarities that we have towards the Israelites of the Bible. So, who else could it be?
Exactly.
But that was it. You have anything else, Akim?
Lying.
Con. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and close it out. We pray this lesson was edifying. We're gonna go ahead and close it out by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Ratah, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught us this truth and rule well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing his word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Until the next time, we're going to say Shalom.
Shalom.
Kwame Yashar.
Kwame Yashar. Man.